Welcome to our exciting new YouTube video where we are embarking on an amazing journey into the world of React. In this basic React project, we are about to unleash the power of CRUD operations using the JSON-server package. So we have create, we have read, we have update, and finally we have the delete action. But that's not all. We have a captivating dark mode at the very corner right here, as you can see. And did we mention the array of reusable all-inspired components that will save you time and effort in your future projects? Say goodbye to repeating coding and hello to efficiency. So, if you're ready to take your React skills to the next level, join us in this adventure as we explore the world of CRUD operations, React router, dark mode, custom hooks, and reusable components. Do not forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to never miss an update on our web development journey. Now we need to create a React environment. So we need to say in the terminal npx create react app dot. That means that I need to create a React environment inside of this folder, my CRUD folder. This will take a while, so
a few moments later.
Great, now we need to remove everything that we are not going to use. Next, we need to install our dependencies. So on the terminal, we will say npm install React router run, JSON-server, Bootstrap icons, and the Bootstrap itself. Now please let me create all the folders that we are going to use inside of the source folder right here. So right now we can start now. So we're going to create first of all the three components, the three initial components that we're going to use. So inside of the component here, we're going to create the header, the JS, and then the other one is going to be table.js, and inside of the folder utilities, where are you? Right here, we will create a new file called notfound.js. We're going to use the short keyword rfce just to start with for the three of those components. Now inside of the app, we need to import the Bootstrap, CSS, JavaScript, and icons, and finally the React router. So inside of this, we are going to close the entire app inside of the browser router. Next, I'm going to create a new div with a class of bg-theme, with a class of padding y3. This is for Bootstrap, it's coming from Bootstrap. Now another div, CRUD-container, this is my personal class. Then text center, this is from Bootstrap, as well as margin 3 and margin, but from the medium screens to be auto. And now inside of this, we need to call the header. So header component, there you go. Now after that, we need a container div, and here we're going to grab our routes. And my single route here is going to be, first of all, path. It's going to be this one, the same page, and then the element prop, this one right here, we are going to call the table. So table, we are going to close that, as well as the route itself. Then for my route, let me copy and paste it to save us some time. This is going to come from the node found. This is going to be my 404 page for the rest of the routes. I would like to display that. So having said that, let's carry on with the index CSS. So inside of here, we need to remove everything, and I'm going to grab some basic styles from my BG theme, CRUD container, and not found images. Now let's go ahead inside of our header, this one right here, and let me just grab it because we're going to have our header with a few classes, Bootstrap classes to be honest. There you go. After that, we need to create an H3 with say CRUD operations, and then a nav and two links. This link is coming from the React router. There you go. We need two of them, so just gonna grab it and paste it. Both of them, they will have a class of margin x3. There you go. And the other attribute is of course 2. To where am I heading? For now, two of them, they're going to head to the main page. Okay, that's the reason that both of them they have the / there. Next, we need to go inside of our table. So table, it's going to return the following. Let me remove this. We don't need this, neither this. Okay, the table. We're going to use first of all React fragment. I don't like to create another node there, another div. And first we're going to start with this div with the class of row, justify content between, align items, and that's just Bootstrap. I don't want to waste time with that. Now we need to create our table. Table with a class of table, table hover, and then my table head. Just going to paste it to save us some time. This is my table head with the table row and the table data, my head. And then after that we will create a table body. So we'll say tBody, and for now just comment this. This is the body, or the table of the body. Finally, we need to go ahead inside of our node found, and we need to import that image. So we will say import, and we can give it whatever the name we want to put it, and I'm just going to call it node found from that also outside inside of my images folder and that image. And here I'm going to create a figure element with the class of node found using camel case, and then the image. The image I'm going to use square braces because this is JSX. No, not square, just curly braces, sorry. I'm going to call my image node found. And here just we'll say node found image inside of the alt attribute. Alright, having said that, let's go inside of our terminal, say npm start. And here you have the page. Alright, our next step is to display the data that is coming from the data folder or directory, this one right here, by using JSON-server. How can we do that exactly? If you go to the readme file, you just need to copy this piece of code and open a new terminal. Once you do that, just paste it, run it, and basically run JSON-server on the port 8000. Why 8000? Because as a default, JSON-server runs on 3000, but React is already using that port. So therefore, I need to look that port 8000. After you do that, you will be able to see this resource. This is the one that we're going to use. Where, well, inside of our custom hook, new hook, we're going to create useFetch using Calm case. useFetch.js for testing purposes, RFCE. There you go. Now inside of our table, we need to call it. So we'll say here useFetch, and I need to pass that URI. So I already have it here. Just going to grab it, paste it. That URI is the same here. That's the point, that the source point that we are going to get our data. And here I need to destructure three pieces of state. Data is pending and error. Okay, this is coming from useFetch. Of course, this will give me an error because I haven't not do anything yet. So let's go back inside of here. I'm sending a URI there. Then I will create my three pieces of state. So set data, set is pending, and set error. And of course, I need to import that hook. Use state and use effect. Why use effect? Because we need to use the fetch API. So you will say use effect, snip. Then I will create a function that says fetch data. I'm sending my URI here as well inside of my dependency for my return console.log for testing purposes, return fetch effect. Sorry. Okay, so outside of this use effect and fn fetch data, I'm sending my URI, and this should be an asynchronous function. Why? Because I'm going to use the await keyword for that inside of a try catch block. So try catch the error. I will console that log the error if there is one. So I will say first of all, let my response equals to await fetch my URI. Now if my response is not okay, please throw an error with a specific message. If I already have my response, I will say let data equals to await response.json. already have my data. Then I will be able to use those methods of set data. I'm sending the data right there. Now set is pending should be false now because we already have the data, and set error should be false just in case because we don't have any error, we have our data. Now for the catch block we will say pretty much the same, but instead of false this should be true because we have an error there. All right, now after that let's remove this, and we need to return those pieces of data. So if we go back here, basically copy this one, we need to return that pieces of data, or state, sorry, data is pending an error. So now I'm able to use it inside of my table component. So right away, let's go here inside of our body, and we're going to use nested ternary operators. Okay, so we will say is pending. So if it's pending, please show my spinner component. Of course, I haven't not created that yet, but don't worry. Oh, you know that. You know what? Let's do that right away. So spinner.js from utilities, and my other component from utilities is going to be alert message.js. I already have in here. They are coming from Bootstrap. So this is my alert, and this is going to be my spinner. Both of them are coming from Bootstrap. The only difference is that for my alert message, I added a margin top of 3. That's it. The spinner and the alert are coming from Bootstrap. Okay, so yeah, I cannot do this because React will throw you an error or a warning message saying that it cannot display inside of a t-body a div. So therefore, I need to use the t-row element. It's not being closed, and then the td table data element, and now I can close that up inside of my spinner component that I haven't imported that yet, but don't worry about it. Now here for attribute, I will use colspan 5 because we have 5 columns. Okay, that's the first. So now otherwise, if there is an error, please show my alert. But again, we need to use the t-row and the t data. So again, copy paste instead of this, alert message component. Okay, that's if there is an error. Again, otherwise, here I'm going to use React fragments, and now I can start looping, or actually we're going to use map. So from the data that I'm getting from my useFetch, I will map, and I will say for each row this is going to be my iterator, and then I can call my index, and then as for my callback function I will return the following piece of JSX. So instead of watching me typing it all, just going to grab it and paste it. So I have a t-row with, of course, the key prop, because every time we make a loop inside of React we need to send a key prop. We have the index, the row username, email, phone. Why? Because they are coming from this fake database. We have the properties of username, email, phone, and ID. And these properties we are using it inside of our table component. So I'm getting an error because I haven't imported those components yet. So let's do that right away. They're coming from utilities. So if I go here, say import alert spinner from utilities, and there you go. However, we should be able to see at this point our data. So let's see what happened. Let's inspect. Let's see if we have any error messages. No error messages. Okay, let's refresh. Oh yeah, we just needed to force a refresh. Okay, let's refresh that again. There you go. We have our spinner just for a little second. So just for testing purposes, in order for you to see the alert message, let's mess around with the source attribute. And there you go, we have our alert message over there. Okay, let's remove that. Now we need to work with the detail page. So inside of CRUD, we will create that detail.js RFCE for testing purposes. So inside of our app, we need to create that route for the detail. So right away, we need to import it. Yes, detail. Now inside of our table, we need to link that. So where is the link? Instead of this button, we should use the link from React Router. Then we need to close that up, of course, and we need to use the two prop and then backticks, $, clear braces. This should be row.id because we need to match details / row ID. We need to match this route, details, then / row.id. Okay, once I've done that, I should be able to see my detail page. You see, detail for any single data. All right then. Well, our next step is to work with use params. Use params hook because I need to get my ID. That it's coming from this route after the column. This ID should be, this text ID should be the same as the ID here in order for the use params to work, of course. After that, I'm going to use useFetch. I'm going to call it, and here, since I need the specific details of the data of here, I'm going to use the same endpoint but going to add the ID at the end. And after that, I need to destructure wherever the useFetch is giving me, and I made a mistake, so it's actually right here and not there. So we already know what returns useFetch, all of them. Data is pending an error, so inside of the detail cons, we paste that because we are destructuring, and that's it. But however, data is standard, is pretty common, so I'm going to call it user for the detail page. Now, what am I going to return? Well, we're going to use React fragment first in order to use the ternary operator. So we will say is pending. If that is true, please send my spinner. Okay, it has been auto imported. Otherwise, if there is an error, please send my alert. Where is alert message? Going to close, and I forgot to close my component there. Yes, there you go. Now, otherwise, please return the following. This is just a card that I took from the Bootstrap docs. That's it. Okay, so let's try it. Now our next step is to work with this delete button. So how can we do that exactly? Well, instead of this button right here, we need to apply an onClick event. So onClick should be able to handle, sorry, not click, I'm going to call it delete, handle delete. So above this, we need to create that function. So fmf handle delete. We need to close this, and we're going to use the fetch API. So fetch, we're going to use the same endpoint as we did above here. So just going to grab it, paste it. Now for fetch as a second parameter, we're going to apply an object. We're going to apply the method. In this case, it's going to be delete. And after the user deletes that data, I want to send him back to the main page. So in order to do that, we need to use navigate hook, and I love to call it navigate to, should be equals to that to store that. So after that fetch, we'll say that then my callback function with no params, and I will say navigate to, well, my main page. That should do it. So I believe that should do it. Let's try it. This should be the last. Yes, Glenna, and it's gone. Our next steps are going to be to deal with forms. But in our final project, our final view, you will realize that create and edit, they both have the same form, pretty much the same. And they both are going to use the submit event. Therefore, we will take right away a step ahead by using these two new components. First of all, my custom useFormFx.js. And second, inside of utilities, my form.js. Why? Because form.js is only going to deal with user interface, while useFormFx is going to deal with the logic. And of course, inside of CRUD, we need to create that new create.js file. So rfce. Now we need to go inside of our app.js, and we need to specify that new route. So create, we need to import it, of course. Now inside of header, we need to change this to property prop, sorry. So this should be create now. If we click on the link, we have create. Now let's go back inside of create now. Now here we're going to use useFormFx, my custom hook, and this is going to return three things to start with. First, the data, then the methods handle change and handle submit. Of course, this doesn't exist yet, but don't worry about it. We will deal with that in a second. Then here I'm going to pass three parameters inside of my useFormFx. First of all, the endpoint, because we're going to use fetch API, then the method post, and finally where to redirect my user after he posts the data. So after that, we need to create our form, or call our form actually, from utilities, and this is going to accept three props, or actually four. First, the title, which is a string, in this case is going to be create. Now we need to go inside of our useForm custom hook, this one right here, and start specifying this piece of data by using useState. We need to import useState, of course. There you go. And now after that, remember that after my user posts that data, I need to redirect, so we need to use navigate to do that. So const navigate to, I'm storing that right there, and then I need to apply the handle change method. So mfn, need to create that ffn handle change, had event parameter, no effect, just event parameter, and inside of here I'm going to use the structuring name, comma, value should be equals to e.target, and then I need to say set add data, set data to be curly braces. I'm going to use the spread operator to get my data, initial data, and then to overwrite that data we're going to use something that is called computed property names. We're going to use square brace, use the name, and then the value. Okay, these computed property names, it allows me to create, or in this case update, the object properties dynamically. Don't worry if it doesn't make sense at the moment, it will when we get to the form. Okay, so let's carry on now. After we create that handle change, we need to move and of course create the handle submit now. So fnn handle submit event parameter, and now e.prevent default for preventing the default behavior of the form. And I believe I'm missing something. Okay, yeah, inside of my use form we need to get our three parameters, of course. First, the URI, the method, and this page, because that is the page that I'm going to send my user. Alright then I will create a body, const body, which is going to be an object, and I will say username should be equals to data.username, and comma, then email should be data.email, comma, and finally phone should be data.phone. I need to create those properties there. Okay, after creating that body, I need to send that body to JSON server. Hence fetch, and I'm going to use my URI. Then for my second parameter, I'm going to use, first of all, what was that? Okay, the method, using the method parameter that I'm getting from above right here. And then I will use the headers. This is an object, so this is going to be content type, and sorry, application /JSON. And after that, I'm going to need to send the body, of course, but as a string. So JSON.stringify who the body that I just created above this body right here. And of course, we need to send that back. So the data, handle change, and handle submit. So we are sending that from this custom hook to the create component, and we are sending that inside of our form. So here inside of our form, we're going to apply destructuring. We need to destructure those props. Furthermore, I can destructure the data, because remember that we have the username, we have the email, and finally the phone. Okay, after that I'm going to inject here my Bootstrap form. So I'm going to grab it and paste it. There you go. Now the things that I would like to highlight here is that we are using the require attribute in order for the user to fill something on the field before sending the data. Then I would like to highlight as well the name attribute. Why? Because if we go back inside of our use form, this one right here, this computed properties names, let me explain how it works. So this can set dynamically or update any object. So this is square brace of the name, because I'm extracting that name from that specific input, for instance the email. So in this case, this square brace name will be email colon and whatever the value the user type on that field or their input. So that's the way that we can update our state dynamically. Okay, and something that I forgot before I leave is that we never use navigate to right here. So we will say that then after that fetch callback function and then navigate to where this page that is coming from this parameter. And also let's go with create. Something that I forgot, that inside of index CSS you need to apply these CSS properties: max width of 400 pixels, margin 0 and auto, and then we can get that. So after that I believe that we can test it out. So I don't know, Lucas at tunes.ca and whatever number, and there you go, we have Lucas there. Next, let's give it to our links and active class. So inside of our custom we're going to create a new component, NavLink.js, and NavLink is a component that is coming from React Router. However, we can call it or import it as something else, as whatever the name we want to put it. In this case, NavLink React Router, and then RFCE to create my function, of course. Now here I will accept two props, 2, and children, and then going to use this nav React Router, NavLink React Router, and then going to accept how to return the children. And for here I'm going to accept the 2 props, and now my class name, and this is coming from the documentation, so don't worry, this is going to be a callback function. So is active, I'm extracting this is active, and I'm going to use the ternary operator. If it's active, just return the class mx-3, otherwise return mx-3 class and not active, and the class not active. Okay, this not active is coming inside of our CSS, and not active class has the text decoration node and color black. So not active, okay, correct spell, that's great. Now inside of our header tag we need to change those links into navlinks. So we will say just navlink and import it from custom. There you go, copy, and voila. Next we need to deal with the details, the edit page. So if we go back here and here, if we go there, we have the edit page or edit form. So in order to do that, instead of CRUD, we'll create that component. Let's create that component. Now inside of the app.js, we need to create that specific route. So route, column ID, and then the element that I would like to display is going to be the edit component. After that, instead of details, we need to create a new link in order to take us to that specific page. So this button is no longer a button, it's going to be the link component, and then the 2 prop backticks, we're going to use $, clear braces, and this one is going to be user.id. But of course we need / edit / user.id. So if we test it out, there you go, we have the edit page. Now inside of the edit, we need to, okay, let's remove this. We need to use params. Use params to extract that ID. Then we're going to use useFormFx custom hook, and we need to extract 4 things. First, the data that I can call user. Then you already know handle change, handle submit, and also now I will extract set data. So if we go back inside of useForm, you will see the set data is actually this piece, this method to update the state. So we need, of course, to return that in order for us to be able to extract that from the .js. Okay, now here we need to pass, of course, 3 parameters: the endpoint, the method, and where am I going to send my user after the user submits the form. So endpoint, the method is going to be put, and -1 because after my user fulfill everything and anything will change and click submit information, is going to take us to the previous page. That's the reason there is a -1 over there. Now our second custom hook that we're going to use is going to be useFetch. So right away we'll say useFetch, and this is going to need the endpoint, so pretty much the same. Grab it, paste it, and from here I need to extract is pending, and error. But furthermore, we need to send set data to that useFetch. Why? Well, you will see that in a second. We need to send that right here. But since useFetch is only accepting 1 parameter, we need to be able to set another one. But here now we are going to use a default parameter for that. So set something, I'm going to call it, and it's going to be null as a default. Here is the thing that I'm going to change. So let me comment this out, and I'm going to use a conditional. If set something exists, please set something. Do that, and I'm going to use the spray operator and going to inject the data right here. I'm going to return an object. Otherwise, just set the data from the data that we already have. Okay, that's the only thing I need to do. Next, I'm going to grab this whole function right here and put it inside of my use effect. And you will see that we're going to get a warning that I'm missing this dependency, which is coming from set something, and yeah, I'm missing dependency, set something. So inside of my array dependency, we will set the something. Okay, once we have done that, let me explain you what's going on. So if we go back inside of edit, yeah, we are extracting set data from useForm hook, and then we send it that inside of useFetch. Because once we have the data, I want to set that data inside of that method. Therefore, it's going to use, where are you? useForm, this one right here, and that data, that current data, is going to be updated. That's the reason that I'm able to see the current information every time I click on the edit page. You see, it's coming, all my inputs fulfilled from that information. So that's the reason why. Okay, let's go back inside of the JS. So we need to return, and here I'm going to use React fragment, and we're going to use again ternary operator for that. So we will say is pending. If this is true, return my spinner. We already have that component, so pretty straightforward. Otherwise, if there is an error, just return my alert message. Oh my god, alert message component. So otherwise, return my form component with my prop title. In this case is going to be edit, just a string prop, and then the other one, data, should be equals to, in this case, user, because that's the way that we call it right here. And then the rest of it, which in this case is going to be handle change, because we're using a form, to be equals to handle change. Now finally handle submit. Why? Because we're using those props inside of my form. You know, title, data, handle change, and handle submit. Now inside of this form, just beneath of everything, we need to create this cancel button. Where are you? This cancel button, we need to create that. So in order to do that, we are going to use a conditional here. So pretty much we are going to say if my title is equals to edit $% to return a button. So this button we have an click event, and that click event is going to be navigate to, but of course we need to call that, I mean use navigate. So const navigate to should be equals to that, to use navigate hook that is coming from React router. So after I set that, I believe that should do it. So let's test it out. So okay, we are on the edit page. If we click on cancel, and what if we want to actually edit? Okay, let's go with the first one, edit, and let's remove all the M's to keep only one, submit my information, and there you go. It takes us to the previous page as we set it before with this -1. Now we need to create this filter input that can filter by name, by email, or by phone. So right away let's jump into it by inside of our table, and just beneath this part we set new column that takes seven spaces, if I can say. That's coming from Bootstrap, and then inside of this we're going to create my input with the class of for control, with the value prop of query, and a placeholder that says search by name, email, or phone, and of course my change event or handler. And therefore we need to create a use state for that, use state, in order for us to be able to use the query. So use state snippet, and then we have the query. Should start as an empty string, and then this should be capital Q, and then a new function that I will create, filter table, should be called filter table. This will accept and data, and as I told you, this is going to filter the data. So this will return an array of data, so data that filter. So for each item we are going to return the following. We need to meet certain criteria. So as you can see on my placeholder says search by name, email, or form. So the key of this function is the string method includes. I mean, so username item that username, and I will need to transform that to lowercase, transform that, and then I say if this includes whatever the user is typing at the moment, of course return that piece of data. Or we're going to use the logical or operator there, or isn't that email, lowercase includes the query, return that piece of data, or just return the phone number, but not the lowercase in this case because they are numbers, and item that phone if it includes on my query. So after that we need to use of course that function, where exactly? Right here inside of my map. So this filter data should return a new array, so depending of that is going to return my data. So if we go back here, if we try to type length, there you go. So by number 024, and by email Lucio, there you go. Now as you can see, if I type anything else we have an empty table. So how can we fix that? Well, inside of this we're going to create a new parentheses, and again we're going to use the logical or operator. Then inside of this we're going to use this filter that data, because remember that function returns an array. So I can say if the length of that array is equals to 0, that means that I have no data to display. Therefore I will display my alert message component. And as you can see, we have it. Now our next step is going to be to toggle the theme. So for that we need to use context. So inside of the context directory we'll say ThemeProvider.js, and we're going to export, if I can type, const theme context should be equal to create context first of all. Then we're going to export FMM, and here we're going to call my theme provider. So this will accept children, and inside of this we need to return the component. So return, and who am I going to return? Well, theme context that provider. So inside of this we will set the children. Remember that the theme provider needs to wrap the whole the whole components that are going to use these contexts. So in my case, it's going to be the whole app. So ThemeProvider, going to auto importer over there, and this should be a component, and going to wrap the whole app inside of it. Okay, once you do that, let's go back inside of our ThemeProvider. This function, we're going to use state. So use state, and in this case, it's going to be, okay, let's use the snippet, is dark. Initially should be false, of course, and it should be capital I. Now I will create a method toggle theme, and this will just toggle the boolean value of is dark. So I will say here previous state, if I can spell, should return the opposite of my previous state. And after this, inside of my theme context.provider, I need a prop that is called value, and I need to return an object. And who am I going to return? Well, is dark, which is a boolean state, and then toggle theme. Now let's create a new component, ThemeBtn.js. Now let's remove this. We need to use the context. So we'll say use context. Who am I going to use? Well, my theme context. And I need to extract the two things that I send them through, which are is dark and toggle theme. So I am extracting that from the context. Then of course I need to use it. First of all, I will set let style. I will create a conditional here, ternary operator. So if it is dark, then set the class of btn-like. This is coming from the Bootstrap classes for our buttons. Otherwise, btn-dark. Okay, now the same logic is going to apply for the icon, because regarding to is this dark or not, I'm displaying the moon or the sun. So I will say equals is dark, again ternary operator. So if it is dark, return the sun, otherwise the moon. Now I will return a div with the class of paddingY4, and now inside of it a button with a dynamic class of btn that's coming from Bootstrap, and then $sign curly braces, and where is it? My class. Okay, this is the style, this is my class. There you go, right there. And after that, I can use my own click event, and I can call my toggle theme. Toggle theme that is coming from the context. Now inside of this, we will display the icon by using again curly braces. Now we're going to use that button inside of our header component. So right here, just beneath this part. So and now for the nav, I need to give it a few classes. So class name, margin start auto, and margin n4. Now inside of the index CSS, we need to create a new class that I'm just going to call it dark. So if my BG theme has the dark mode, please change that. We need to change the background color. I forgot. So let's go back inside of our provider, this one right here, and we're going to use useFetch for this part. And my dependency array will be is dark. Now we will create a conditional if is dark is true, and now the else statement. Now inside of the is statement, we will say document that query selector. Yes, we're going to use DOM manipulation for this, bg-theme, which is this div, this one right here, that's taking the whole width and height of my web page. So okay, I'm going to add the class of dark, but again, not listener. Class list that add the class of dark. Otherwise, just going to remove it. And that dark class is coming from my index CSS. Now let's try it. Of course, we have a few things to do yet. We need to work with our links first. So inside of index CSS, not active, this is coming from our links. Let's remove that. We need to apply the following. We need to target the anchor tag. We have the header, the nav, and the anchor tag. As you can see, the header, the nav, and the anchor tag, we need to target that and say text decoration of. Now, if that anchor tag has the class of is active, please do the text decoration underline and the color to be a blue one. Now we need to go back inside of our NavLink, and we need to change that by using the context, of course. Use context, so theme context, and I need to extract, or this structure just is dark. And again, going to use a ternary operator here. I will say const text style. You can call it wherever you want, doesn't matter. So the property is going to be color, and here it comes my ternary operator. So if it is dark, please send the color to white. So FFF, otherwise should be black. But that's not it. We need to include that inside of this, so style and text style. And also we need to change the class name now. Instead of this be not active, this should be active now. So going to paste it, is active, and I need to remove that because not active class, it doesn't exist anymore. I just removed that. So okay, we already did that. We're using the use context to change the link's colors. Let's try it, and there you go, we have it. If we go to create, we go to home. Now we have a few issues with our titles. That's coming next. We need to create a new reusable component inside of custom, and this one is going to be title.js. Why? Because this will be reusable. So if we go inside of our header, the table, the header, and finally my form, three of them, they have an H1 and H3, I believe. H1, H3, and H1 again. So title is going to be used there. How exactly? Well, let me explain you first. So here, instead of H1, I will call title. Remember that this was an H1, okay? Now for my form, this is an H1 as well, so I will use title. This was an H1 as well. Now for our header, this is an H3, so again we need to call title. Title, of course I'm getting an error, but don't worry about it, just wait for a second. And here I'm going to pass a new prop called level, should be equal to H3. Now I hope you're getting the idea. So now inside of title, I'm sending a prop level, but as a default I would like that to be an H1. So that's the reason I'm not sending any prop for the table, neither for the form, because it already has the default value of H1. Next, the other props they're going to use is going to be the children. Why? Because this component is going to return a tag, and this tag is going to be this wrapper right here. And inside of this, I'm going to use the children prop. So children in our heading tags are going to be just the plain text. And finally the plain text here. So that is going to be our children. And finally, as you can see the difference, this one is using a class name prop, or actually attribute, this one as well, but not our header. So how can we do that exactly? Well, how can we send that class name? Well, by using the spray operator, and we are calling the rest of the props if that have it or has it. Okay then. Now next I will use my context now. Use context, theme context should be equal to const is dark, because I need to destructure that from that context. And here I'm going to use my first if statement. Text style should be equal to color, this property, this is a property, and I will use a ternary operator. So if it's dark, please return the following color, and then otherwise return the black color. Now I will create an array called valid levels, and remember with HTML we have 6 heading tags from H1 till H6, so therefore I'm returning H1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now here on my tag, this const tag will say if my array includes wherever that I'm passing, I mean the level, because that's the prop that I'm passing, includes that, return that level, because it's already in a string. Otherwise, return an H1. And here I need to pass the prop of style to be text style, and then my props. Props. In this case, in the case of our table and our phone, they will have the class name attribute. So actually they are the props here. And then I'm sending the style. So having said that, I believe that should work at this moment. So let's go back, and there you go. We are toggling our titles there again, as well as this one. And that's it. Alright guys, I hope you enjoy the power of CRUD operation using JSON-server package with React. Remember what we did. We applied some basic React proper. We did the toggle theme by using context. We apply an input search filter right here. And also, furthermore, we find a way to apply the same form, a reusable form component for the did component and the create component.
By the way, do not forget to share it with your friends if you are enjoying this video, of course.